My name's Bobby and I'm the creative director and founder of Pavilion Films. We're a small video production company. We're based in East London, and essentially a lot of our work is branded content, digital below the line content. Some of our work's actually evolved recently over the last year or so naturally into the live space, and because of that we've had to find new camera systems and new ways of approaching our productions. We ended up using the Canon XF605 broadcast camcorder, which is right at the top of their lineup. It's a camera that really ended up changing the game for us in terms of live production, and it was the perfect middle ground between 1-inch sensor kind of look. It also had that dynamic range that we were looking for, the inbuilt servo zoom, the long battery life. Everything around that camcorder really worked. There was one thing that really didn't work out for us with that camcorder, and that was the H.265 codec. That was a proprietary codec within the camera. And you can see online a lot of people talking about that being an issue. I can see where Canon were going with releasing that when they did, but essentially it felt like it was a bit ahead of the curve in terms of being able to be picked up by different post houses, editors, shooters. It really did just feel like a step too far at the wrong time, which is a shame because the camera itself is fantastic. The only other thing I would say about that camcorder was the price point. I believe it was around 6,000 to 7,000 list price for a body. Of course that includes your lens as well. Why? And at that price point, realistically, we were never going to be buying them in-house as a production company, primarily because generally on most shoots, we're looking at least 3, if not 5 to 6 cameras. Our only other option below that was the XF405. Great camera, but it didn't quite serve the purposes that we needed. The XF705 has been a great workhorse for us in the live space, and it's even found its way into some of our content productions as well, as it's relatively quick and simple and intuitive to just pick up and go and use as a B and a C cam. I also think the 1-inch CMOS sensor is a real clinch with that camera. It creates some stunning images, and images within that kind of broadcast camcorder category that you haven't seen before. But there's some really exciting news. Canon have just dropped out a new camcorder, and it's called the XF605. Just a little disclaimer here, I'm not being paid by Canon in any way, shape or form, nor am I sponsored by them. They've given me this camera kindly just to test out for a week and get my thoughts on the camera itself. This will also not be a full in-depth tech review. That's not really what I'm into here. I'm more coming at it with a perspective of the owner of a production company, a practicing cinematographer and director, and somebody that uses these kind of cameras regularly. Everything I'll go over in this video is more to do with usability, practicality, and what I think of this new camera from a real world use case perspective. Hopefully that's helpful. If you do want any further tech specs specifically, have a look in the information I've posted below this video. That should give you an overview. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of useful videos out there with more tech specs as well. For now, I'm just going to get into the camera, give you a good little tour around and give you my initial thoughts. So the XF605 is a 4K camera that delivers 422 10-bit, and that's in H.264 intra and long GOP, as well as H.265 options in long GOP as well. And it's also capable of up to 120 frames a second in full HD, and that's also with audio embedded as well. And one of the first things you notice when you pick it up is how small, compact and light it is, and how much has been chopped out of the back. Just to give you more of a clearer idea in terms of size and weight savings, it's 600 grams lighter than the XF705, so that's no small feat in itself, and it's also 10% smaller overall. But the main fix is that the proprietary codec is now H.264. That was really the main thorn in the side of the XF705. One major change to the camera in terms of form factor is the LCD display and the way that that works. Now before on the 705 it would swing round and tilt out both sides of the camera, which I was actually quite a fan of, but this makes sense in terms of a lower form factor and saving on weight as well. The screen now flips out to the left hand side of the camera and can tilt forward for all your selfie and YouTube needs. It could be flat, straight onto the camera operator, down, and also flipped back to the top of the camcorder for some underslung kind of setup as well. I wouldn't say that it's the prettiest looking setup, but it's pretty functional. As you'd expect to see with most broadcast camcorders, there is an iris, zoom and focus ring in the front there, as on the XF705, and I believe most of the range of their broadcast camcorders. It's got the magic trapdoor. It's just so addictive. Could do that all day. So the lens hood here has a closed and open position, where you can flap open the front doors to cover up the lens. That's quite good when you're in transit, just to be able to close it down and chuck it in a bag. If you're not familiar to this type of camcorder, this will be a bit of a new feature set for you. It is a removable piece of the camera. You just unscrew at one side and you can take that off there. So first off, just a quick walk around the camera. On the left-hand side, you've got all of your controls. So you have your ND filters, your ISO and gain switch, your white balance switch. There's a key lock down the bottom as well, which is really handy for not knocking controls, something that I'm very, very guilty of. You have hard switches down this side for focus between manual and auto, iris between manual and auto, and to change between using zoom on the ring and zoom on the rocker. That brings me round to the rocker on this side. I've got a classic kind of servo zoom rocker, which I've always been a real fan of. Just pop your hand in there and you instantly turn into a dad at a wedding, which is great. The lens itself is Canon L series optics, denoted by the classic red ring on the front. And using the zoom, you can go 15 times optical zoom, as well as an extended digital zoom. In terms of range and focal length, obviously this is a 1-inch chip and not a Super 35, but the Super 35 equivalent focal length, and let me check this, is 25.5mm at the wide end to 382.5 at the long end. And I believe in terms of iris, you go from 2.8 at the wide end through to 4.5 at the long end. At the back here is a door for the audio controls, a door for dual SD card slots. In the back are all the standard connections you'd expect to see on a camcorder of this type. So you've got your SDI out, you've got your HDMI out, you have Genlock and timecode as well. Up front you have 2 XLR ports, which will be expandable to 4 with a new module that you can attach through the active hot shoe at the back there, which is a new addition on this camera. There's also an additional cold shoe at the top, which is ideal for mounting wireless microphones and things like that. And also up front, there's a monaural mic. Monaural? I'm not sure how you say that, but that's how it looks in the menu. Monaural mic, basically crap audio to sync your good audio with. At the bottom, there's a 1/4-20 and a 3/8 inch mounting port. And as you'd expect, this camera runs off Canon's BP series batteries. BPA30, I believe, will come with the camera, but you can also use a BPA60 as well. I'm going to get to the major feature of this camera. Now, Canon are known for their autofocus. These guys are basically the magicians of autofocus in my mind, and they've taken it one step further this time. This thing doesn't just have face tracking, this thing has eye detection. The new autofocus system is called the ITRFX, and basically what it affords you is the ability to be able to track people's heads within the frame, and also eye detection as well. Very, very impressive stuff. Check out a couple of these examples. One new feature of this camera, which I think is a first in the category, is a gain boost feature, which takes the gain up to 36 decibels, which is pretty impressive. I tried this out in an almost dark room, and given it's very, very noisy, but for when you really need to get the shot, that can be super useful. You have still, of course, got the OLED EVF at the back, which is classic Canon. One great new feature of the camera, I think, but I've been struggling to get my head around it, is the fact that it's now touchscreen. That's touch in full focus and for some of the controls internally as well. That's quite nice. It is a relatively small screen, so if like me, you've got big fingers, I guess it could be a little bit tricky, but having said that, it's relatively straightforward and easy to use, so I could see myself using that a fair bit. Just takes a little bit of getting used to if you're used to all the classic kind of dial and knob control. In terms of profile options, the XF605 has the standard range that you would expect from Canon. So you've got your 709, you've got 709 wide DR, you have PQ, you have HLG, EOS standard, EOS neutral, and you also have C-Log 3 as well. The camera is also Wi-Fi enabled and supports IP streaming as well. And on the back of that, it supports XF-AVC or MP4 recording internally while it is streaming as well. And another great thing that's going to make this feature set of this camera more attractive is that it comes in just below in terms of the range of the XF705, and the price will be reflective of that. The RRP is £3,600 excluding VAT. An amazing price when you consider everything this camera can deliver, especially when pitted against the more expensive top of the line XF705. Anyway, let's get into some test footage. Here's just a little bit of stuff that I've shot while I've had the camera for a few days. This is not my finest work and by no means a definitive view of what this camera can really do, but it's just what I had time to shoot with the camera while I had it available. My conclusions on this camera, I'm really impressed. Obviously, I was a lover of the 705, so it wasn't a hard sell for me in the first place, but the fact that they've chopped and changed the body and made the ergonomics more usable for a day-to-day user, the fact that it will sit at that lower price point as well is very attractive. And if I'm honest, I see this camera not just in a broadcast, ENG kind of live streaming space. I honestly think that this could firmly sit itself within more of a content and corporate space. I think for many users that haven't gone down that path of using a broadcast camcorder for corporate work, it generally tends to be because of the sensor size. Now this has obviously got the 1-inch chip, you've got the speed and the ease of the servo zoom, the form factor. I honestly can see people using this for more than just that live or that broadcast purpose. I think given that it's an all-in-one package, you've got sound, you've got zoom range, you've got sensor size. So yeah, I think a great move from Canon. I'm certainly going to be using this camera and we'll be using it on our productions. I think it's a great piece of kit. Definitely worth getting your hands on it, particularly if you're not somebody who's really used broadcast camcorders before. Thank you so much for watching. I know I haven't put a lot of videos out, but I'm intending to do more like this going forward. I hope it's been helpful. If so, hit subscribe, hit like, and leave me a comment as well. And take care.